A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum Extra. The day being Friday, we review the major events of the week. Today, we'll be looking at the deep concerns that are coming up following the NRM parliamentary primaries. Now, this week, many aggrieved NRM members continue to flock to the tribunal, which was set up by the party chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, to petition regarding the complaints that they have. Some say they were cheated, mistreated during the parliamentary party primaries. Many petitions focus on bribery, violence, and even children voting in the said primaries. The party chairman also issued an order urging all security forces to arrest those who were involved in malpractice and distorting the process. And indeed, some registrars of the party have been arrested. Now, Mr. Museveni has stressed that all mistake makers will be punished. The opposition and civil society actors who have been critical of the challenges noted in the NRM process. They say that they fear for the worst when the competition will be between the NRM and the opposition. So we'll be looking at that issue in detail and what it means for the NRM. And one of the key questions we'll be asking whether the NRM will survive the NRM independent leaning phenomenon that has been very common. As you know, there's so many NRM leaning independents in parliament right now, and the NRM has this, idea of always signing with them MOUs to the extent that they go and attend the NRM caucus and also support the positions of the government on the floor of parliament. Well, all is not well in the UPC party. There are fresh acrimony in that political party following two court orders. The first court order indicated that the current party leader, Jimmy Akena, cannot and should not run for office again, having served 2 terms as per the UPC constitution. He dismissed this order and he said that does not suffice since the national constitution has no such limits. By that time he had been nominated with another party member, Dennis NUP, who was then declared as party president by the Party Electoral Commission, whose members notified the Electoral Commission. The following day, Akena reacted by sacking those commission members and telling them they have no power to communicate with the Electoral Commission. Today, another interim order was issued to stop his plans to host an extraordinary delegates conference tomorrow, physical or virtual, until the main case filed by Joseph Ochieno, who is one of the panelists who features on this program, is heard on Tuesday next week. The police has also advised Akena to abandon his plans to conduct an extraordinary delegates conference, but he has had to go ahead with this conference in a virtual manner. Now, remember when Mr. Enap was declared the party president, he said he will use all means, including force, to remove Akena from office. Akena reacted by saying the delegates conference will be held virtually. So this is an issue that is yet again taking place in the UPC. Now, this week, the NUP also marked 5 years since its birth. Now, during that time, it did knock NRM around in Uganda region, taking away a big chunk of elective positions. During this time, it has also suffered several attacks. We have seen security forces actually arresting some of its members, although the party has termed this as abductions. We have also seen a wrangle that resulted in its deputy president, Mathias Impuga, leaving and forming another political party. He was followed by about 4 MPs. And many are suggesting that in the next poll, it might not enjoy similar attention like it did in 2021, on account that by then people elected using emotions and not reason. That statement has also been re-echoed by President Yoweri Museveni. And we have also had some people who say NUP was a mere wave. So we'll be looking at the 5 years of the NUP and looking at what awaits this political party going forward. A panel of 4. Let me introduce retired Major Paula Awich, Director of External Affairs, NRM Party Secretariat. He's a lawyer. He's also a human rights defender. Good evening, retired Major. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, and good evening to all our viewers.
Imam Eid Kasozi, lecturer, Islamic University in Uganda, IUIU, member of the Justice Forum Party, JEMA, farmer. Good evening, Imam. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, Ken, and good evening to my colleagues around the table, and good evening to everybody who is tuned in.
Dr. Sarah Birete, Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance, Pundit on Human Rights and Governance Issues. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Thank you, Kenneth. Good evening, fellow panelists and listeners out there.
Last but not least, Mr. Timothy Chemonges, Executive Director, Parliamentary Watch. He also holds the same position at the Center for Policy Analysis. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Xtra, Timothy.
Thank you so much, Anderson. Good evening to the listeners, the panelists in the table, and looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
All right. Let me begin with you, retired Major Paula Awich, since you come from the NRM, and that's our main topic of discussion today, the one that we're starting with. If you can bring us first to speed with what has actually been happening at the NRM Party Secretariat, or where you are at the moment, in terms of addressing the issues that emerged following the party primaries.
Thank you so much. But I was a bit amazed by the cover explanation that you gave on the three issues, and all the three issues are political. So I was deep thinking, oh my God, when shall we also have a day where we are discussing other developmental issues but not politics? For example, an invention which has occurred, Uganda has invented something which has cured a challenge, or, you know, something good that, take for example, somebody has invented, the way they invented mobile money. He said, oh, and Uganda has invented a system where you can actually send money to Kotido without... Anyway, so I think
when they invented mobile money, we did have a discussion about it.
Yeah, so I was right to think that we shouldn't, or we shall not always be political and political and political. Now, on the issue, on the question of what is happening in the party, I sit at the party secretariat, and I'm because I'm a director, so I'm a member of the top management. And top management is the technical administrative body that decides for the party, including regulations that are passed. It is passed by top management, but authorized or confirmed by SEC. We do the technical work, then SEC, actually the word in the dictionary says approves. It is approved by SEC. Now, again, it is worth noting that at the party secretariat, Electoral Commission is kind of autonomous because... And we sit opposite. We are. I'm on Prod 10, they're on Prod 13. The spirit here is that we are tempted to make Electoral Commission independent, so that a candidate cannot lose because the Secretary General decided that I want so and so. So it was like you have in a national election, just to be our Kama, who is independent. So the party also attempted to have Electoral Commission independent, and that's why it is on Prod 13. So what is happening now is...
So the separation of the offices physically makes the NRM Electoral Commission independent. Is that what you're suggesting, Major Witch?
I wonder why you have a mischievous interpretation.
No, you know, there is what they call form and substance. So I'm trying to see...
I have said that the spirit in the Constitution, the spirit is actually the substance. As opposed to the form. So my choice of word, my diction was the spirit. So, of course, if it sits under the same roof, that is the form. And you can't rule out that that form can affect the substance. Of course, there's a dialectical linkage between the substance and the form. So, in spirit, there's separation. And in form, there's separation. So, both in content and form, is separated. Now, what is happening right now is that we put our internal democracy to test once again, because we have gone as a party to recruit so many people to join the party, which is a good thing. And we have recruited so much because we're a mass party. We are not a selective party like you have the Communist Party of China, where you have 1.5 billion people and only 90 million people are members. The 1.4 billion and 1.41 billion are not party members. And you want to say, but who are these 90 million who are party members and not us? So the Chinese chose that path, but for us we chose the path of a mass party. Now, the problem you get in a mass party is that you have a challenge of internal democracy. which we have been trying to manage, and we shall grapple with it, and hopefully we shall make it better. Of course, you definitely won't expect perfection, because even those who do mischief, as long as you close this window, they look for another window. You close the other window, they look for the other one. You climb another step, they also climb another step. So it is a struggle. So what has happened now is for the parliamentary, both the direct constituency and the women members of parliament, we conducted elections. There are several complaints, but we had an inbuilt system of measures to resolve them, because we knew in such elections such things will come. So we developed regulations for complaint mechanism. We developed a tribunal which was appointed by the chairman. We even gave them spaces. We even bought stationery, because we were sure that such things would emerge, and therefore we needed to have institutional framework. Now, by yesterday, I've been busy on other tasks, but by yesterday I think we are reaching more than 200 petitions. So, but we do believe that the petition will be resolved judiciously with the utmost due diligence, and we expect that parties will be satisfied with what will come out of it. But I must say it is unfortunate, it is regrettable, because this is an internal election. This is a family election, which shouldn't have attracted all this. But we're also happy that it shows the popularity of the party. We are popular. People love us. At this, I am sure you will get some parties. There are already some parties who are going into villages begging people to carry their flag. Please kindly be our flag bearer. We are even giving you money. But for us, you see how we are fighting to say, we are seeing who will get the flag. So that is a plus, but it is that growth of a party that calls for challenge for the management of internal democracy.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us that background. Now we understand clearly what is going on. The conflict and the intense competition that we have seen in the NRM is because it's a party that is loved so much. You have about 200 petitions that have to be resolved. You are also talking about internal mechanisms that you have as a political party to resolve conflicts. Now let's go to Dr. Sarah Birete. Dr. Sarah Birete, what's your take on the situation in the NRM? You watched what happened. You've seen the mechanism, and you've heard from a member of the top management committee, retired Major Awich Pola here, telling us the strength and the weaknesses inside the NRM.
Well, just on a little positive note, we have to credit NRM for holding national primaries and allowing their members to decide who should represent them for posts. I think that's a credit to them. But on the other hand, NRM does not have strong democratic credentials to write home about. And I believe largely they cannot give what they don't have. If you look at the character of the ruling party and how they've run government, I wouldn't score them as a democratic or a group of Democrats. I wouldn't do that. But given that they operate under the structure known as the Constitution, they seem to be like a popular party holding primaries, but their character in government is largely one thing. They have violated all principles of governance, up to the extent that they are the only government in the world that I know of that conducts abductions of their citizens. So really, that is not a democratic plus. Yes, the NRM is the party in power. Citizens have been missing thanks to security agencies, which they had. So they are responsible for abductions of Ugandans.
I don't know why
and
you're going
other than terrorist
in that
groups.
direction.
No, I'm looking at the character of the ruling party. Other than terrorist groups, I don't know any government that abducts its citizens except NRM. So having said that, if you look at the president wrote 3 letters in 2 days. It's like he was not sleeping. And for me, I'm looking at a scared chairman of a party who is scared for 2 reasons. One, the bungled primaries will produce many independents within the party. and many independents, because the legitimate winners were rigged out, they will most likely defeat the fraudulent flag bearers in the elections. So that's one reason why the president is panicking. The second reason, if you have
is he panicking or is just
3 letters in 2 days?
Maybe as a leader of a party.
I'm coming why I call it panic. I will justify my comment. So the second reason why I think he is in panic is because if you have multiple members contesting for a seat, they will divide their support and create a gap for opposition to defeat them. So for me, that's the reason why the president seems to be bothered. But otherwise, in his usual form as a Sebaranyi, he wouldn't be bothered about malpractices in elections because that's how he survives. And I want to compare with the Kawempe by-election. Kawempe by-election was really a big fraud by security agencies, JAT, UPDF, police, whatever it is. And I blame all that on the party in power. They are in charge of government organs. And if they've lost control of these organs, they better tell citizens that as a party in power, they've lost control of state institutions. Unless they come to that, admission, we shall always blame them for the conduct of state institutions under their regime. The army rained terror on citizens, on journalists, on observers in Kawempe. Why didn't the president order arrest of the people who drove members to Kawempe, of the people who commanded members to go to Kawempe? For the first time, Ugandans saw a member with more than 100 guns driving through a polling station. Why weren't those soldiers arrested? And why is he more active in NRM primaries and not considering the national elections? A president of a country is not just a party chief or a village chief. He's the president of everybody. So this hypocrite concern of malpractices in party elections, while bungling the national elections for citizens, while bungling the sovereign rights of Ugandans, it is not a democratic concern. It's a hypocritical concern.
So you still insist that whatever happened in the NRM was meant to happen? Is that what you're trying to say?
They are not democratic. I've said why I don't consider them as a group of Democrats. I have justified that. They have bungled the rule of law in the country. They have weakened all institutions of governance, including parliament, which they recently bribed with 100 million to pass UPDF Act. All those are not democratic credentials. And that's what NRM demonstrates in their leadership.
How about the fact that, like Major here has stated, that they have internal mechanisms to actually address some of these issues?
I have said that structure on paper, they have systems to exist under multi-party dispensation. But their character at the national level does not demonstrate any democratic credentials. You send the army to raid the parliament. You send the army to beat up MPs in the chambers. I am a democratic leader. A democratic leader cannot do that.
All right, Spectrum Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90. We do encourage you to join us in this discussion by sharing with us your view on the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. We're reviewing the major events of the week, and I have a panel of 4. Our first topic of discussion, we are looking at the situation in the NRM party in the aftermath of their primaries. That is the primaries for parliament, but we also saw primaries for local governments happening yesterday. We are going to go for a break. When we return, we'll hear from Imam Id Kasozi, but we also still have Mr. Timothy Kiomonges here in studio. He will also share his view before we move on to wrap up this discussion as we continue reflecting on the state of governance in our country, looking at the NRM party, but we'll also look at the UPC party with the troubles that are coming up, but also we'll look at the 5 years of the NUP, which were commemorated this week. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. We continue after this break. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Xtra live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're reviewing the major events of the week. I have a panel of 4. Dr. Sarah Birete, the Chief Executive Officer, the Center for Constitutional Governance. We have Mr. Timothy Chemonges, Executive Director, Parliamentary Watch, and the Center for Policy Analysis. Retired Major Paula Awich, Director of External Affairs at the NRM Party Secretariat. And now we want to welcome the view of Imam Idi Kasozi, who is also here with us in studio, to share with us his perspective on what has been transpiring in the NRM party after they conducted their primaries. One of the things that actually happened was setting up of a tribunal, which is chaired by a lawyer known as John Musime, who is also supported by other 28 lawyers to listen to the complaints and also come up with a final answer within the next 45 days before the political party can embark on nominating those that will have successfully gone through that process. Let's hear from you, Imam Idi Kasozi, your take on the NRM primaries and the implications so far.
Thank you very much. You see, what is disturbing me now is the committee where, or the panel, I don't know whether it is panel, committee, whether resolution, conflict resolution committee, I don't know. Did the NRM have an established resolution, conflict resolution team? Why assemble these ones now? That one also is a big question.
Because there's a need to judiciously address the conflicts and the petitions that have come up. Using a judicial mechanism.
What's wrong with the one they have had previously?
Do you want me to answer that? Maybe it can.
Okay, answer that one. Then it will relieve me.
I think what we have had under first of all, we are the only party with what we call code of conduct. The demand in electoral commission in the laws of Uganda, every political party should register their code of conduct with the electoral commission, but none has done it except us. So in the code of conduct, it provides for disciplinary committee. The national one was headed by Haji Kigongo, but that only deals with violations which are provided for under the code of conduct. Like, for example, if you're a party member, you support another candidate, or you give money to another candidate, just for example. So that is it. But electoral tribunal is a standalone body that is constituted after election.
Thank you. You see, my interest is on the issues raised that they want to deal with: violence, bribery, cheating, changing the results. Is it new? Probably inside the NRM it could have been new. And that's why probably President Museveni is seriously concerned. But I can safely say, without mincing my words, that President Museveni is the biggest victim of bribery giving when we are moving towards elections. It can come in a style known as either PDM or Emyoga or whatever.
Is a victim?
Yes, he is a perpetuator. He's a perpetuator.
Okay.
Because wherever he has passed, he has disputed money. And even some people have complained over that money in front of him. Okay? And nothing has been done.
You forget that he's a sitting president and there are ongoing government projects that must be executed.
When he's doing this, do you see the audience? Even when he is coming to open a market where he knows every Ugandan has an opportunity to go and work there, what happens? Did you see what happened in Busega? You see, the bad thing we have had in this country is to sanitize negativity, thinking that or hoping that it will help us move. Issues of bribery, very, very common, including including him appointing ministers from opposition parties without any coalition that is very clear. That one alone is a form of bribery of some sort.
Not national service.
No. Put them there so that we can control them while they are there. Then, violence. I don't. The violence he's trying to curb now, you cannot even compare it with the violence that happened when he was running for presidency in 2021. What did he do? Up to now, you have heard Dr. Sarah here saying that abducted people 4 years down the road, not knowing where they are. Okay, that is violence, and it was done violently. The Ruka incidents, the Kampala incidents, which he claimed, I think, about 54 people here in Kampala. What did he do? Why is it that when it is intra issues, he is seriously getting concerned, and when it is national, where as a sitting president he's supposed to take the lead, he keeps quiet. That's where my problem as a person is. So the issue is not intended to solve a problem. The issue is only to massage the problem so that they can cool out. In the process, they are going to cool down some issues, some individuals, because I told you here, and I want to retaliate it again, that President Museveni is fortunate. He has put everybody almost in Uganda, especially those who hang around his political institution, in a transit mode. They are in a transit lodge. And now the purpose is, don't stand, we shall consider you probably for this one. Don't stand, probably this one. That is the purpose of this. That's why I will take now time to know who is who on this. You have only mentioned the chair, but I want to know who is who, and then see what is it that they have been doing in various aspects to know exactly whether the intention is really to clean the party. Because in his letters, he uses two interesting words. Self-seekers and polluting. And he goes further to remind us that forget about NRM. I can go back and invoke FRONASA or NRA, because the NRA and FRONASA are not part of this NRMO. And whenever he wants to, because to do many other things, he will change. Sometimes, now because he's campaigning in a style where he doesn't want to be identified as campaigning, he has been in a white shirt. The next stage, he will be in a yellow shirt. Then at another stage, he will put on a military uniform.
And he becomes the general of the national resistance.
So all those have a lot to say. And you see, in his letters, he spiced it with so many Runyankole words.
We are lucky,
which means cheetah, whatever. He put them many. And he's trying to say, you are trying to disorganize, okay, our people. And he now, for the first time, I have heard him, he has now talked about matters. All along they were heroes. Now he has brought in a new term, matters. NRA, matters, and heroes. This time, you are trying to pollute that one. So, what I can say in a very brief statement, and then I close shop. Then he calls the mistake makers. Okay, he has made many mistakes himself. And what actually he's trying to demonstrate is that I own and control this political organization. And if you are in here, you must add here. Because President Museveni knows nobody can deploy soldiers without his knowledge. Soldiers were deployed everywhere. Okay? money, the money he's talking about, money has been given to almost everybody, and actually it causes a suspicion. Whenever, for example, whenever there is something and sometimes you don't respond, they will come tell you, hey, did you eat? Meaning, therefore, that it has become a tradition of some critical people. So what I want to see and what I'm requesting the president to do, I am saying, let now this one be a real spark that will interrogate the bigger matters of the nation, whereby we have very many, I can even tell you, very young sheikhs who are in custody for years. Nobody, they are not talking about them. They are not being brought to court, they are not charged, but they are there. Nobody knows what is their crime. So this issue of thinking that he would use national institutions to benefit him is a bad step he has taken, just because he wants to benefit. Okay, I think he's worried that it may disorganize the next elections. But I'm very certain he will maybe hold some people for some time, and when we finish the bigger nominations in September, everything will. We have only 1 month, by the way, to see this work. Only 1 month, and then we go to the national level.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Imam Idkasozi. Now let's turn our attention to Mr. Chimonges. Mr. Chimonges, you've heard from your colleagues on the panel, but you've also followed closely what has been happening in the NRM primaries. Let's hear your insights.
So I think that I agree with the positive note that Sarah shares, that, NRM, despite the challenges, the attempt and the effort to put in place to exercise some, to encourage the voting, but also having the voices of the people in whichever way, I think it's an effort that I think needs to be applauded. However, I think that the spirit, the goodwill, sometimes is frustrated by the recurrent, but also the things that keep happening day in, day out. And the point that sometimes you can only offer as much as you have. There is very little that you can say that I can offer beyond what you have. What we see the NRM government, and which has enjoyed a bit, which has enjoyed governance for some time in the country, it's similar to what we are seeing in the political party, and I think it has not only moved away from the party. Even the members themselves seem to read from the same script from the party and its leadership. And so for me, I think that I would want to focus more around the question of resourcing and an area that for me is of keen interest in terms of the amount of resources that are injected in this process, yet the outcome seems to be totally fall short of the expectation of these resources. I've had engagement with some of the colleagues within the NRM, and they confirm that there is quite a lot of resources, both from the political party and others from government, that are injected towards this process.
Money from the government?
Money from the government, absolutely. So when you look at that perspective, as a bare minimum, really, even when it is absolutely goes against the aspiration of the people of this country, it tells you that it's either two things. One, it's either the party believes in this kind of approach towards its governance and how it does its things, or absolutely there seems not to be clear accountability systems in the political party that has continued to see these things recur each year as most of these primaries that happen. And so for me, that is one of the areas that I would be keen to looking at this. The other is around the question of the structures within political party that NRM enjoys. I'm not so sure of how much most of these structures within the party have beyond the interest, but also beyond the influence of the NRM chairperson. Because again, for a party to effectively execute its mandate, there has to be some sense of autonomy that these structures that are within the party enjoy. For example, you have the dispute resolution mechanism that have been established. To what extent can those exercise their mandate beyond the influence of the party chairperson or any of these individuals? For me, that's the area that I would be keen to looking into.
All right. We've heard also from you now. Let's now go back to Major Awich. Major Awich, you've heard from your colleagues on the table responding to some of the issues that you put across, but their general view about the situation in the NRM and how it's handling these particular issues. Very quickly, would you like to respond to some of the issues that have come across or provide us with any more information if there is any gaps you identified during the submission of your colleagues?
Yeah, there are many, but I picked three maybe. First of all, the view that President Museveni's response to this is stronger than response to a similar situation in national occurrence is not correct, but also to further say that the response itself amounts to panic. That is also not correct. Knowing the person of President Museveni, I don't think Museveni even knows the word panic. It doesn't apply. I remember when John Garang died, and the then Prime Minister, Mamba, said that when they heard of the death, he was devastated. President Museveni said, that's revolutionaries who don't get devastated.
I can correct you. It was the then Minister of Information and National Guidance, Dr. James Nsababuturo, who was the MC at Kololo. He's the one who actually said that the president was devastated.
Devastated, yeah. And the president said, no, I can't be devastated. As a revolutionary, even in very challenging situations, you become stronger. So, and the way I know President Museveni is that in challenging situations, this word even works better. So the word panic is very unapplicable and cannot be used on President Museveni. He can't be devastated, as he said. He's a revolutionary, he's a fighter. When things get tougher, he works better and smarter.
Can you see how Dr. Sarah Bidete is looking at you?
Yeah, because revolutionary with the revolution rotating around himself.
Yes, so he can't get devastated and he can't panic. So remove the word panic away from there. But what is happening now, and maybe the pace of response in national situations, is that national situations has many actors. It's a government. It has different ministries responsible. Defense and this and that and judiciary, DPP and the rest. But in a party, it's a smaller thing, and therefore it calls for a rapid response of a chair.
The question would be, to what entity does he pay more allegiance? Is it the party or the national issues?
National issues, of course. But I'm saying it's like you are handling, even you work in Radio 1, but you have a home with children who are sick. What your response at home in your bigger job outwork is different. So what I'm saying here is that a party is closer, and it's like your one-man show, so to say, but it's institutional. But not like, because for you to take up critical decisions as government, you possibly need a cabinet meeting. Okay, you possibly need opinion from Attorney General. You possibly, so many things, so many bureaucracy, which is not in the party, and therefore that forms a more rapid response in 3 days by the chairman, which Sarah terms it panic. It is not. So the other thing is similar is control of state institutions. A lot has been said about this. And this Sarah permeates and moves around up to the alleged involvement of state institutions. I'm saying alleged because many of them are not proved. For example, there was a long list which was presented to Parliament for alleged abduction. when many methods were involved, including NERA, including checking at the border post, including all details that would be in NERA, it was not substantially proved that many of those people actually existed. So the burden was thrown back to he who alleges should prove. So those allegations of institutional framing and saying that we as a party have nothing to offer is therefore wrong and erroneous. We have so much to offer. We have so much to offer that other countries even benchmark us. We can be benchmarked for being a mass party. I already gave the example, the contrary to Chinese. We can benchmark for maintaining peace in the country, in a region that is very volatile, South Sudan, Congo, whatever it is. We can be benchmarked for being a country which has, a party or a government which has increased life expectancy. So when you say, yes, because people are dying at 43. Now people are dying of 43. Now people are living 64 and above.
But that is not NRM.
You see, Aji, nothing.
I am a student of demography, and that is not NRM.
You see, nothing happens.
It's like you people here talk about UPE, and they think it is an NRM program. People who have studied or who have followed the United Nations organization, we know the objectives or what they wanted to achieve. They started with some, I think 8, now they have 17 aspects. They are all embodied into that, and all the countries are actually applying this. The reason actually why the Western system is focused on education, previously they were not getting many people from us, and they got people from us who were not learned at all. So they said, give them at least the basic one, P7. When they come here, they will serve us better. And that's why we have all those, because these are universal, international issues. But when I hear people try to localize them and claim them, immunization is a global thing. And even the founders,
I hope to steal my time. I hope to steal your time. It is my time, and I hope you don't count those minutes into mine. I sat back because I'm a disciplined cadre. I sat back because I'm a disciplined cadre. But on issues that you raise about UN, I think you are talking to the right person. Aji, I have been a United Nations judge of human rights for 8 years in Geneva. What you are saying, it's a UN move. For example, if Uganda ratifies a convention on the rights of the child, and there's a provision under the an article which says states must provide education in that way, and Uganda implements, you don't take it for granted, because I sit there, I know countries out of 193 countries in the world, many countries which have not complied with those provisions. And you see UN continuously urging state to do this, urging, they write to them every day. So when a government picks up to implement such a provision, you cannot claim to say it is not their initiative. Because states, for example, you're Muslim. Do you know that provision for equality of women, many states, Islamic states, have put reservation? Because when you ratify such provision, you have a right to say, I reserve not to accept this. They put reservation on women equality. Now, if a country like Egypt has said, for us, we are not reserving reservation, we are going to have equality among women, can't you thank the government that did that at that time? So you are saying because it is UN, then it is nothing. No, UN provision, some states don't comply. And you can see that. No, the fact that you can decide to put it in your policy, accept it, you deserve a credit for that.
No, that
because those, yes. So, but now, again, you remind me.
Because
nothing, Aji, nothing.
The card is not mine. Then I came into my vehicle. I'm only driving.
Nothing happens in a vacuum. You see, when a party makes a manifesto to take to the people, the manifesto is so holistic. it covers everything. And therefore, whatever happens within the context. I have given this example. If Batoro and Banyoro are living peacefully without fighting, they'll say it is automatic. NRM has done nothing. But if in Apa, in a Jumani, Apa, Achuli, and Madi are fighting, NRM has failed. So when is it NRM, when is it not? Nothing happens in a vacuum. The ones which are good, you don't associate to NRM. The one which is bad, you quickly associate. Why would you associate? Why wouldn't you associate the happiness between Batoro and Banyoro as NRM? And you should associate the fighting between. So, in other words, Haji, nothing happens in vacuum. Everything is programmed for. So, now, it makes me now move to a position where there's also this claim that when President Museveni goes to open a market, the appearance appears like it is not government. No, it is in the way of the people there. For example, if he's going to a market like Busega, and the NRM members there so choose to welcome him, the visibility is there, and you wouldn't stop them. But he has gone on a purely a government mission, which was a birth of a manifesto. Because the manifesto was marketed to the people, which ended up in a social contract that should you elect us, we shall do A, B, C, D. And therefore it is handed over to the relevant ministry, local government, in this case PDM. If you hand over PDM to a local government, it's an extract from the manifesto. So you wouldn't stop party members who appear in that market.
Do you know?
Who appear in that market.
Know that I have also contributed to the making of that market? But if I wanted to do any activity there, I would not be accepted.
Well, gentlemen, lady, we have to go for a break now. Let's go for this break. When we return, topic. Stay tuned. Radio 1 FM 90 Spectrum Extra continues after this break. Well, we're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. We are still looking at the deep concerns following the NRM primaries. This week, very many NRM aspirants flocked to the tribunal, which was set up by the party chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, to tender in their, their petitions, and they are hoping that this issue will be resolved to avoid the phenomenon that we've seen with the past elections, where people have emerged as NRM-leaning candidates. The guest on the panel this evening, retired Major Awich Pola. He is the Director of External Affairs at the NRM Party Secretariat. Mr. Chemonges Timothy, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the Center for Policy Analysis and Parliamentary Watch. Imam Idi Kasozi, lecturer, Islamic University in Uganda, IUIU, is also a member of the Justice Forum Party. And now let's hear from Dr. Sarah Birete, who is from the Center for Constitutional Governance. Sarah, we need to wrap up the discussion on this particular topic before we shift on to our another topic. But let's hear your final input on this particular topic, Dr. Sarah.
I will respond to two issues. One is that President Museveni's response to national issues regarding elections has never been tangible. The only time, and I want to quote, the President Museveni acted seriously on electoral malpractices was in Bukedea in LC5 by-election in 2023, where he said that he watched a film, he was watching a clip of Bukedea. It was like watching a fictitious film. He couldn't believe. And then he ordered arrests. But in this year, we have had by-elections in Kisoro and Kawempe.
Even on Kawempe, he issued a statement.
Did he take action? First of all, and it's on that I want to act. President Museveni is the chairman, Army High Command. He's the commander-in-chief of the UPDF. He is responsible, vicariously or otherwise, for all the conduct of the UPDF in the country. Does he need to issue a letter if members are deployed in Kawempe by-election? There were about 50 members. Does he need to issue a letter? All he needs is to call his commanders, in case he was not briefed before. But the assumption is that he knew in advance, before even members were deployed, and he endorsed. In case he did not, he should have been seen to reprimand the officers that abused their office. Does he need to write a letter to Bazukuru about abuse of the military? Where is the commander-in-chief? That you are writing to Bazukuru to do what? To come and command the army for you or what? He needs to demonstrate leadership on the abuse and excesses of the army. Minus that, he cannot pretend that he is democratic. No. The second issue is association with good programs of government, and then the NRMs celebrate. I want to invite the NRMs, including the director here, that as much as they celebrate good programs implemented with everybody's money as a taxpayer, they should also own the misdeeds of government, including abductions by the UPDF. The latest case, I think, was Edmutwe in the basement. They must own those bad deeds. But when there is an abduction, they say that is government. When they are going to inspect the PDM or open markets, they say this is NRM manifesto. All conduct of government in the 5 years is conduct of NRM as a ruling party.
Imam.
Yes.
Your closing remarks on this particular topic.
You see, my brother said they were reacting quickly because the thing is the party is small, but it is not. It is a national. The NRM primaries is like national elections. Actually, it is the only country that does this. It's the only party in the world that does this. Where primaries, what they call primaries, that we go to a village and then somebody votes for Imam Kasozi and then they begin adding. You see, many institutions after that one, it would be like and actually it would be like a college or a committee which helps to identify real MPs. Now everybody can be nominated and then he can go through and then 5 years. That's why you have a big high rate of turnover of ejecting people from parliament, because they come, they pick their salary, no business at all. Then there are many things which have happened, and we even have court rulings over them concerning elections. Since 2006, President Museveni has never reacted. Even when I see, is it the Supreme Court is the biggest court? Even it pronounced things over elections. They concern all these malpractices, but no reaction at all. So that's why it is just the Baganda say, but timba bula. It is just
smoke screen.
It is just a decoy, so that people now begin to say maybe. It is only those that have not lived here longer and have not followed these issues that will say maybe. What we want to see, we would like to see the army outside all politics, all elections, including the so-called primaries, because these army men are only in there or when they want to interfere with another party.
So you will prefer to see chaos, because the rationale of deploying the army.
Do you know why chaos comes?
To guard against chaos.
Do you know why chaos comes? It is because there is imbalance or there is the problem in the process. That's why we are shocked. We are shocked to see that elections by lining up, where people count physically 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, okay? That they have altered the results. How? Actually, I think I would beg also now NRM to support all those of us who say that declaration of winners should be made on the polling station, not through these what we call them, what centers, where tally centers, because the tally centers have proved to be manipulated. That's why even there's manipulation of people who counted 1, 2, 3, 10. If you come, because I have a polling station at my mosque, there was election there. people were counted. Those who were not party members even were also were, because it's a mosque. They were at the mosque, and at the time of prayer, because it was towards prayer.
They were also counted.
No, they weren't. But they know who got what. But now, when they do the declaration forms, then they tell that what they did is they delayed to give out the declaration forms because they did not want people to manipulate them from Nassau Road. Okay, all that occurs because the internal system is not transparent and there is no sincerity.
All right. Chimonges, your closing remarks on this particular topic before we move on to the next one.
Thank you, Anderson. So
one of the questions I would want you to answer is whether you think the NRM will this time around avoid having too many independents, the so-called NRM leaning independents.
I think that looking at the process and what has happened in the primaries, really, it's a clear reflection of the likely outcome we are likely to have. But for me, again, is to say that we celebrate we are 20 years in the multi-party dispensation in Uganda today, under the vision that political parties should enjoy environment that they can be able to participate equally, but also aggregate the interests of its members. As we speak today, that seems not to have been, we seem not to have achieved a lot from there. In fact, I think that the ruling party, as through the mandate that they hold in the government, have attempted to frustrate this process. Unfortunately, you'll see that even the concerns that they seem to raise or to face in the primaries is a clear reflection of what is happening in the national level. And so for me, I think that there's a fundamental problem in the governance question, but also in how we allow individuals, the political parties, to associate. The other, of course, for me would be in terms of the likelihood of the numbers of the independents, which definitely is likely to occur. And what that means is that it's a clear signal to how we've treated or dealt with multi-party dispensation in this country. Ideally, what had been envisaged is that we would exercise this through the political parties. And what NRM has been able to do, and it's of course commendable that they are the party that we are discussing. Of course, the other parties may really not enjoy if they really wanted to do what the NRM has just done. If they really wanted, I'm not so sure if they would have exercised it in that manner or even been granted the opportunity to do that. And so I think there is a fundamental problem in how we've dealt with multi-party democracy in the country, and up to date it remains to be a hoax.
All right. Thank you so much. I will be waiting to hear the views from the listeners on this particular issue. But now let's shift our gears and look at the issues that are playing out in the Uganda People's Congress, one of the oldest political parties in our country. And I want to begin with you, Dr. Sarah Biret, on this particular one. You have also followed what has been transpiring. Jimmy Akena coming out to say all the questions that are being put across about his continued stay in office are false. He says that court ruling that suggested he can't run again because he has served 2 terms as per the UPC constitution does not suffice because the national constitution does not have term limits. He says, why are all guns pointing at him? There are other leaders who have served in the political parties longer than 2 terms. And we're continuing to have this kind of situation in the UPC as we are approaching the national election. We've just been talking about the NRM. Now let's turn the page and look at what is pertaining in the opposition. What's your take?
Well, when Honorable Jimmy Akena became president for UPC, he chose to be in an informal alliance with NRM. And he has declared twice by not running for presidential elections and saying he will endorse Museveni, and he even went ahead to mortgage the first lady of UPC to NRM cabinet as part of the alliance.
What do you mean mortgaging?
No, but I don't know. Let me first finish my submission. Mortgage is an English word. Yes. Yeah.
more related to property than individuals. So I'm trying
No,
to
but
imagine.
you see, when you get a first lady of a party and you hand over to another party, and she wears yellow and she's singing Tova Kumein, what signals are you sending politically? That has been the tenure of Jimmy Akena in 2 terms of UPC as a party president. I think he even forgot that the term limits were catching up on him. When he wanted to run for presidency, now breaking away from the NRM Informal Alliance, term limits caught up with him. And he's now blaming President Museveni. On this one, I want to say that really President Museveni is innocent. What has caught up with Honorable... No, on this
innocent as always.
What has caught up with Honorable Jimmy Akena is his dirty politics overlying with the ruling party and also the party constitution of UPC. Outside in other fora, Honorable Jimmy Akena has been advocating for return of term limits in the national constitution. When you see him now saying that if there is no term limit in the national constitution, therefore nobody should mention the term limits, it's as if he does not even pay allegiance to his own party constitution. To me, he has come off really as, I don't know, he needs to talk to his lawyers to advise him on what to say. On the other hand, you have the other contenders, because UPC has been having factions. The factions of what be the senior council, Joseph Ochieno, and now the young man,
Dennis NUP.
Dennis coming up, NUP. So basically, you have 4 the leaders of UPC with the Akena holding on, irregularly and illegitimately. He has, when I was coming, I had him declaring that people are trying to block the grand transformational agenda of his father. He's trying to appeal to the emotional, feelings of those people who were supporters of Dr. But I think it is wrong. Leaders have to respect their party constitutions, and so long as these party constitutions are standing, he also referred to Honorable Norbert Mao ruling forever as if he wants to operate in accordance with the DP constitution. That's why I said that he needs to come down and consult his lawyers. He's really coming off as a person in very bad shape, mental and otherwise.
All right, let's now switch to Major Awich. Major Awich, there's that popular saying that if you want to know the character of the people that are opposing you or your contemporaries, you look in the mirror. And some people keep on saying that, NRM probably is responsible for all this confusion that we see in other political parties. And you heard Dr. Sarah there saying the unholy alliance between UPC and the NRM could have contributed to the wars that Honorable Jimmy Akena faces now, and the UPC generally.
No, I don't think so, because NRM is a transparent party. It puts first of all, it has its constitution, puts its manifesto, discusses its things openly. We don't have conspiracy theorists. We don't operate behind curtains. So, Akena has not gained anything from NRM. If maybe, as Sarah says, in institutions, if Sarah thinks that gain something from the President of the Republic of Uganda, well, maybe at that level, but not chairman of the party. We don't know that yet. Now, about term limit of Akena. Yes, I'm saying that because if we accept that, then we would also be accepting that we intermeddle in other people's parties. We don't even wish them bad. We just wish fair competition because we believe we are rooted in the masses. So we don't wish UPC or any other party bad. We wish them well, but we want a fair competition as a party. So we don't meddle in them, and we don't support them in any other way. That is not the legal open interaction that we do, like through iPod. Now, Honorable Akena seems to be arguing about term limit, that it is because it is in the national constitution.
Because it is not in the national constitution.
It is not. So, like Sarah says, he should consult his lawyers. I don't know whether it comes off by saying that when, but that is in forms of customs. Or he's arguing that when there's a law, like customs, for example, the law says that when a custom conflicts with a written law, a written law prevails. For example, if in Langi, if you produce with a girl outside marriage, that child becomes of a mother of the girl. But now if there is a written law, for example, where a biological father is the father, when the two conflict, then the biological father will take and not at what the custom says. So I don't know whether Akena is arguing that because there's now a conflict in the national constitution. It doesn't, because the constitution of the UPC is a consent agreement among parties, and it is not a consent of illegality. Like, for example, they agreed to murder somebody, or they agreed to do slave trade. It's a consent among party members, and it will operate with or without the national constitution. There would only be wrong if it is a consent of illegality. Therefore, and it is not a custom, therefore to import that because a national constitution says this, then it amends your constitution, that is absolutely not correct.
All right, let's go to Imam.
Just a bit.
Yes, well, quick.
I think normally there comes to an end of something, because Honorable Akena has been a beneficiary of abuse of court ruling. Many. And maybe to that extent it makes observers like Sarah Reid that is enjoying protection from NRM.
Impunity.
Yeah, because he has many court, including Supreme Court ruling, he has ignored. But I would really see as a rule of justice now, if at the last moment justice has prevailed, that now police is telling him not to do it. In the past, police wouldn't come like that. Now that police is coming to tell him stop, maybe justice is now prevailing. But he has for a long time enjoyed impunity, not immunity, impunity in violating multiple court rulings. Now that justice is prevailing, I think we'll come to terms to it.
Imam,
Yes.
the UPC situation.
You see, what we are witnessing in UPC, and actually what we have also witnessed in other political parties, it is because we have not purely grasped the values of democracy. We are only using it when we feel it suits us. But in the real sense, we are not, including the Democratic Party. You sometimes look for democracy and you cannot see. The other thing probably, as I think they have put it already, it is because interests are prevailing over principles. That's why somebody says that he wants to compare. We know the national constitution is there, but we know all institutions within, they have constitutions. The only biggest checkpoint is that whatever you put in your memorandum and articles of association, which we call constitutions,
Binding.
okay, should not be contravening the national situations. So it is relevant to say that because in the national constitution this is not there, I cannot also have it. When you have it and it is within your spectrum, you go with it. There are many things which we have in our memorandum and articles of associations, which the national constitution doesn't have. But the national constitution covers there's a big issues, the goals. For us, we look for our objectives. Okay? And I think he should not pretend. Let him accept that the constitution of the party is there. He was unfortunate. He was not like others who changed in advance. If he had changed probably in advance, they would be challenging it in court now, the change. But now, they are saying you are illegal. even the meeting is summoning, whether virtual or whatever, he's summoning it as who? Because if his term has expired, okay, I hope he does not do what you see what he's trying to do, and which he can also pull it off, because I have seen it with the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council Constitution, and when people went to court, these cadres in court wrote that no, that issue you go and manage it in your conflict resolution team, which is even non-existent. You see, just because they were shielding somebody. So if Akena is still shielded by the system, he will put it off. But if he's not shielded, I'm certain he's gone.
All right. Timothy, your quick thoughts on this issue of the UPC situation and where it leaves Jimmy Akena and the party as a whole?
I think it's a question of impunity and how sometimes system enable some of these practices. And sometimes you want to imagine maybe NRM is worse until maybe you see the rest who are in the opposition and imagine what they could do if given power. The imagination of these political parties holding the national mandate, and imagine what they could do, I think. And it's not just UPC, I think it goes across parties, institutions. But the biggest worry for us has been the question of, irrespective of the character of these individuals, I think that one thing we've fallen short is overrunning the institutions of this country. That ideally should either provide some sort of framework structure to protect some sense of to protect the democracy, but also the rule of law. I think the biggest undoing that we've had in the country is the question of overrunning institutions and having no institutions that can be independent by the meaning of itself. And so irrespective of how most of these parties or individuals may conduct themselves, I think that if you have a country that is able to be dependable as far as the structures, the institution and the infrastructure is dependable to defend the rule of law, but also to ensure that the environment upon which most of these institutions, political parties exercise their mandate is free and fair, I think it's an area that would be very interesting to look at. Thank you.
All right, Spectrum, Xtra Radio 1 FM 90. Let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll be looking at the 5 years of the National Unity Platform Party, which has been commemorated this particular week. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We continue after this break. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Xtra, reviewing the major events of the week. We've just been reflecting on the NRM situation following their primaries. Right now, we shift our gears and we are looking at the trouble in the UPC party, which we have also concluded. I have a couple of messages that came in during the course of the discussion. I want to read some of them out, and then we'll be getting responses before we actually start looking at the NUP situation. The panel, Imam Idi Kasozi, we have Dr. Sarah Birete, retired Major Paula Awich from the NRM, and Mr. Timos Chemonges, who is from the Center for Policy Analysis. We have a comment from Mawa Amaza Moyo, who writes and says, "Good evening, Spectrum Xtra. Let's expect the worst when it's opposition versus NRM, because if it was their own election, and we saw that for sure there will be violence since NRM is in control, let's advise our fellow citizens to avoid violence." We have a comment coming in from Gracie Kabanda, who says, "Good evening, everyone. Good evening to everyone in studio. I don't think NRM have the democracy when they are still beating or torturing Ugandans." We have another comment coming in from George, who is listening in from Bunga. He says, "I don't know which method you use to select panelists you host. I wish you could select patriotic Ugandans like Dr. Birete, Imam Idi Kasozi. Once those two people deliberate issues, I feel like I want to switch off the radio. Somebody thinks you're not patriotic, Imam Idi Kasozi or Dr. Sarah Birete, given the comments that you've been making. Well, this is feedback. This is feedback coming in from the listener. Good evening, Mr. Moderator. NRM party primaries have been characterized with so many injustices and malpractices here. In Bududa district, the district registrar, together with its sub-county registrars, rigged elections for some of their favored candidates. They played and manipulated DRR forms to give victory to those who didn't deserve it. Major Paula and his team should intervene to address the impunity of those registrars who have taken NRM party primaries as a cash cow. That is Kibeti Patrick Nabutanyi, listening in from Bududa district. Okama, listening in from Mukono, he is originally from Tororo, says, for a government that raided every process with guns and not going through elections to come to power, can't exercise democracy, even their own party. Fights amongst themselves. Then we have another comment here. James Nalumunye, listening in from Nalumunye, Jomai, says, I think Sarah Birete doesn't know the saying, no smoke without fire. The arrests are done after intelligence reports. Out of the 46 million Ugandans, Sarah cannot name even about 100 people who she allegedly termed as being abducted. Some people arrested are using defiance to portray and discredit the government. That's a comment from James, listening in from Nalumunye, Jomai Estate. Then we have another comment here. NRM have scarcity of telling the truth. First, it is not true that it's only NRM with a code of conduct. It's on record. NUP, PPP, and other political parties have codes of conduct. Secondly, they talk of elections, but under their regime, there cannot be free and fair elections. Another comment. Anderson and the guests in studio, I salute you. My comments on issues at hand, NRM primaries. First, NRM primaries has set a precedence of trade for votes and money. There is voter apathy. You mobilize and rally a village to village, you have to pay them. On the day of polling, you must ferry the voters from their homes to polling stations with a soda at hand, even if you met them at the rally of the previous day. Short of that, they won't turn up. Those elections were a fraud and a gamble. The highest bidder takes it all. This mirrors the forthcoming elections entirely. Even those cheated want to come as independents. People have spent borrowed money enough to be earned between 3 to 4 years in Parliament. The quality of MPs in the 12th Parliament will be worse than those in the 11th Parliament. That's a comment that comes in from Kamogo Fred Keta from Kira Municipality. Abe Kwizera, listen again from Kawempe Kutano, what the NRM has been doing and still continues to do in an attempt to improve its internal elections is like shaving the hair of a folklore. Folklore beast locally called Obibi in Luo. No Baba ever succeeded in shaving the hair of that beast because by the time the Baba nears completion of the shaving, the hair will have grown back to the same level and he has to start all over again and again until he surrenders. The NRM internal elections can't be any better unless greed and militarism is totally absent. Then we have another comment. Where and when do we draw boundaries between Mr. Museveni campaigning for 2026 elections and supervising PDM projects? These days he has been moving around the country dishing out money to voters and even promising them more in the next financial year, as if he is fully aware that next financial year will find him in State House. He keeps using the statement, next financial year, I shall add you more money. It is really his money, or is it taxpayers' money? Well, that's another comment there. So many other comments coming in, but we are running out of time, so very quickly we need to respond, and I want to begin with you, Dr. Sarah, and then Major
I will just respond to the issue of regarding abductions versus arrests. I am aware that many Ugandans are ignorant of the Constitution. If the person who has sent that question has ever read Article 23 of the Constitution, that specifies out the protocol for arrest of citizens of the Republic of Uganda, she wouldn't raise such a question that it's after intelligence, do you what? All that is false propaganda. I want to ask him or her to educate himself or herself.
All right, Major Paula, how is it?
May I thank the viewers and their comments, because for some time, this kind of talk show, you'd get very few comments that would appreciate NRM position, or even contradict people with different opinion like Sarah and Imam. But now that we hear such voices of contradicting and appreciation, I think we are moving forward in the right direction. We're moving forward. Now, but my comment here is actually coming from what Chemonge said, that indeed when you look at other parties, that is when you will know that NRM is not the worst. I take that seriously. And I recently gave an example. Yes, I gave the example recently, Chemonges. You see, there was a general feeling or an impression given that NRM and the government was not democratic. The Kenyan lady, you remember the one who came to represent Kizza Besigye, okay? When Martha came, there was a bit of challenge about getting a practicing certificate. I have a practicing certificate, but it's so difficult to get it, even for me, a Ugandan, that if it was getting to parliament was as difficult as getting this practice, we would have a very beautiful parliament. So if me, a Ugandan, finds it difficult, how about Martha? Now, finally she got and she practiced, okay? She went to military court, she went to civilian court. Come on, just 2-3 weeks later, she tried it in Tanzania. They told her at the airport in Dar es Salaam, stop here, go back. Our own Agatha, who was also in the same, was dropped near Rakai. So, in the matter of worseness or whatever it is, please, NRM is good and far better. If you want to make that comparison, ask Martha and ask Agatha.
We have another comment coming in from Medad. He says, hello, Kenneth, thank you for the show. I only want to commend Dr. Sala for her transparency and wish to encourage her that in this arrogant regime, what does not listen to such good voices, history will remember her, and she spoke the truth. So actually, there are also some people out there who think Dr. Sarah Bete is doing a good job. But let's hear from Imam.
No. What I want to say, first of all, I want to start where Major stopped. When he compared Tanzania, Uganda, two wrongs don't make something right.
Superlative, worse. The word was worse.
Yeah, whatever.
Superlative.
Whether worse, whatever, a wrong will remain a wrong. You see, for us in Islam, we have a qaida or a rule which says what we call haram is haram, even if it is too much or too little. When we say it is haram, a bottle of beer is haram, and a spoon of beer is also haram. So you don't need to say, but this one is small. No. Haram remains haram. Whether done by Tanzania, whether done by
America,
Israel or America, we should consider it to be haram. That said, you know, somebody who you read a message from Bunga, my neighbor, I don't know. You see, I am not a trained patriot. I am a patriot. I don't need to be trained or to be told, because I know what patriotism is. Now, secondly, I have said on this platform that I these days envy the ignorant, because for them everything is okay, and they are very lucky. Give them food, they will eat and get satisfied. They go to bed, they will sleep. That's why we have people who make such a comments, and sometimes I don't have answers for them, because I am invited here in my own right, and I am supposed to say what I think I should say. And what I say is not a must that you must take it. No. So it is important for us to know that this country belongs to all of us. Some of us have contributed. What may be that young man, he may be young or old, he doesn't know that I have been paying tax since 1982. So I am a partner in Uganda.
All right. Let's hear from Chemonges very quickly.
Thank you. Thanks to the listeners. For me, I think my focus really is around the comment of the mirror of what's happening toward the general elections. So there's definitely clear indications and signs going by what has happened in the NRM primaries, but also what happened in Kawempe, that the upcoming general elections may not be as peaceful as the assurances are coming from those that are in charge. And these may definitely go towards increasing the voter apathy, but also having a section of the electorate not participating fully in this process. For me, mine is to say that there is definitely an opportunity to participate in this process. That as Ugandans, we must come out to ensure we vote, participate in whichever way, to ensure that we determine the leadership, even if it meant at the lower levels of the governance in our society. There is definitely an opportunity.
All right. Now, let's move on and look at the 5 years of the National Unity Platform Party. And I want to begin with you, Major Awich Pola, on this one. The leading opposition political party this week commemorated 5 years, and they have been complaining and reflecting on the situation they have gone through, including how they have been allegedly mistreated. Let's hear from you.
When what we commonly refer to as NUP came up, we said fine, it was good for those group of Ugandans to associate in that way, even when at the beginning there had issues of legality, whether it was a legally formed body because they said they had bought it from somebody went to court and all that. But it's okay. In the democratic principle of NRM, we thought that that was a group of people with their views. And we tried all our best to win over people who were joining them by way of persuasion, by way of demonstrating through our party, a manifesto that we have done. We tried, but they went their way. Now, we later on soon discovered that it wasn't sustainable because we interrogated their ideological stand, and we really did not see that they had such a strong or even any ideological stand. So we gave it a chance, but we now see that people realized the wave and came back. How do we see it? We have had national elections lately, like the special interest group elections, the youth, the women, the disability, the elderly. In all areas that NUP had originally dominated, people have abandoned. They voted for us. To the extent that we can now be sure that we already have 20 members of parliament in the forthcoming election through special interest group because we have donated them. So we said, fine, people had their views, they expressed it. 20, yes, we have 20. Because once you have already youth, for example, in villages, they go into parish, district, whatever, and they form. So we have already 20. Now, but suffice to say that it is democracy. People went there, tried it out. We love their democratic views that they exercise, but we are happy to welcome them back, and that they have done it by election in special interest group. We therefore expect it even in the general election. And by the way, we have never gone for an election with a non-formidable force like we are going in this one. When we used to go for election with Besje, you really see a formidable force. When you go for election with so on, you'd see a formidable force. But in this one, we are going into an election when we really don't see a formidable force. And that is why I'm saying we were happy that people are associated under NUP to see if there was a better option. But we told them it was not. We welcome them back.
All right. Let's go to Dr. Sarah Birete. Dr. Sarah Birete, let's hear your views on the 5 years of NUP.
Well, just before that, I want to start from where Fandawich has stopped on whether NUP is a formidable force or not. You know, NUP has unmasked the extreme tendencies of NRM. That's why they have continuously conducted abductions since 2020. And now they are committing crimes against humanity, continuous enforced disappearances. Because of the pressure of NUP and young people, you are now a regime that is beyond a terror group. Crimes against humanity. The other evidence that NUP is a formidable force, that's why their primaries are a big mess. Now a big scandal, 20 petitions in 2 days. By Monday, they will have 500 petitions. They will add on even the districts, because there has been a lot of the same. The pressure in NRM is too much. Going back to NUP, I think I need to congratulate them. And if I were to be academic, I would score them at 80% as a party which went into elections when it was 2 months old. Now it's 5 years old. But in the 2 months, it managed to be the leader of opposition. They have also not performed very badly, regardless of the, small numbers in parliament. I think they've tried to hold their party together amidst coercion, money is thrown at these young people in parliament. They were dismissed as inexperienced, but they've held fort and kept their agenda together. Largely, I think the only people who have gone off are the ones in the Democratic Front. The rest have even subjected themselves to the primaries of NUP. In the 5 years, they have built their party headquarters. They have built the Leadership Institute. And like NRM, after 40 years, they are still using our national facilities in Changwanzi. I'm sure even many young people do not know that Changwanzi is a national institute. I'm sure they might think it is NRM institute. But NUP has their own Leadership Institute. Can you at least get off our national property and build your own structures as a party? I also want to credit them. They've worked and they've been treated like a terror group ever since they came on the scene, because the regime was worried over the unit of young people. The torture, the abductions, the raid. It is the most raided opposition party in a short span of 5 years. The raids at NUP headquarters, but they are still going strong. So we need to credit them that they've been fought so hard, including the money. And when Afanda, which admits that their thing of trying to buy off their young supporters failed, the young people decided that they will defeat money. They go and pick it. The next day you see them again at the NUP headquarters. So they realized that was not working. That is also credit to the NRM the NUP strategies. So I wish to credit them, but encourage them to do more to become a real formidable force in the next elections.
All right, let's go to Imam Idi Kasozi, the 5 years of NUP. Imam Idi Kasozi, what's your take on the 5 years of NUP?
Like I think Sarah has said, first of all, it surprised everybody to become maybe the leader of the opposition. But it was possible because the existing parties were conflicting and are still conflicting. UPC, DP, FDC, all of them are fractured. And therefore, people saw maybe hope. However, what has transpired, and I agree, they have put a lot of pressure on them, imprisoning them, subjecting them to very inhuman torture, but they are still holding up. However, their biggest problem is still many of them still want to make themselves prey to the enemy. And I remember at one time I told them that, you see, if your enemy, weak or strong, don't give him opportunity to override you. And two, some of them who don't have a big experience are tempted to try semblance of violence against the masters of violence. and that one works against them, and it would kill the spirit of others. Why? Because when a small thing happens, then they will blame. Then the other part, which they have not, many of them have not appreciated, is the what we call, I don't know whether social media or the online media groups, where even you don't know who is writing, okay? And he tempts you to think he's pro you, only to be leading you into conflict. And where you are strong, they again work on you to show you that you are weak. So if they can realize this and begin to guard themselves, never to throw themselves in front of the lion, okay? They would do many other things. Why? Why? Because there will not be examples that make our people frightened. I have gone through all these things they are talking about. I have seen. As a Muslim, I know we had the young boys, the young men, who are very, very active. Okay, they were terrorized. They are still being terrorized up to now, and for them, the unfortunate part with them, this camouflage of ADF. ADF is always used as an excuse, including people who have never even thought of obeying near close. That's, you remember one time I challenged one general. He said, you know, Chigundu was the ADF. I said, you signed an agreement with Chigundu to join UPDF. Show me where he indicated that he is ADF. Nobody can produce that document because it's not there. All but right. They will always call that one. So I am calling upon
NUP
to reorganize themselves. Okay. Lastly, if some people get off from you, don't use it as a tool to attack them, to abuse them every day. Because sensible people somewhere begin looking at you and say, this one is not well disciplined. Let people go. I always tell people in the party I belong to, I am not I am not a politician who looks for positions, right. But I am politically alive. I tell them that it's not a prison. You are free to come in and you are free to exit at any time you want, right. Rather than hanging on, blaming this one, and then they make you fight your own wars.
All right. Mr. Chemonges, very quickly on NUP, we have a few minutes remaining. Very quickly, if you can keep it short, Mr. Chemonges, any advice to the NUP as they commemorate 5 years?
No, I think for me is to say that they have done a commendable job. It is the tough environment they are operating in. One thing I think maybe credit to them has been the opening up of the ghetto and the informal spaces that had for long been forgotten. We've seen NRM and the government now coming to scavenge in that area, to try to to grab as much as they can. You see that now the president is promising resources to go to the ghetto, but also more importantly, trying to take advantage of the strong ground of NUP. For me, I think that also in Parliament, an area that I'm very interested in, I should say that NUP has done an excellent job in terms of mobilizing, but also doing the work that the leadership in the opposition has done. That's, for me, very commendable. As a word to them, I think that it can only get worse looking at the environment, and there is likely to be more target to the party itself, but also to its membership, and they've got to be a bit more tough, more resilient in the environment. Otherwise, we need them as a country. They play a very critical role in the country to promote the dispensation we are in, but also more importantly ensuring that the democracy that we work towards strengthening is upheld.
We are going to elections very soon. How do you rate them? How do you see them faring? Because some people have been saying it was a wave, they are likely to be knocked around.
No, I think, yes, wave or not wave, I think that what is true is that towards the last general elections, they approached the elections when there were a lot of issues, including the status of the party itself, because there was a matter in court in light of their party. Now that there's stability that is more clearly in terms of the political parties, I foresee them performing much better in terms of having more members of parliament. Yeah. And
you think they are likely to move out of their traditional stronghold because they have been told they are a regional party?
No, I mean, the question of whether they are regional or not, I think it's for me secondary. The most important and critical for them is to leverage and strengthen of having more members. Whether they're from one region or not, I think for me, the biggest focus now is for them to capitalize on their stronghold as they work towards getting on the other parts of the country.
All right, with that we come to the end of Spectrum Extra. Thank you so much, dear panelists, and thank you very much, dear listeners, for tuning in and contributing to this discussion.